Welcome. Welcome on into the First Round Fantasy Podcast. Your first choice for second round advice. Jacob Bartley, Gabriel Miramontes here. While I get my bearings, because clearly we're starting 10 minutes later than we usually do. I'm sorry. That's my fault. Jacob Bartley, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. You know, Star Drew, our viewer Star Drew, I appreciate you. You crack me up sometimes, man. Definitely crack me up sometimes. He says he likes your nosy back. I think he meant noisy background, puppy, and wife. So I don't know why that cracked me up.
When did he say all of those things?
Yeah, I don't know, but it's just very, very. I don't know why that line cracked me up. Also, I told you, he said, "Wow, looking sharp, Gabe." That camera is very clear, so clear that like your glasses have a reflection, but it's
oh no, can you see like the pores on my head? I'm like trying this new skin cream to get these pores like smaller. Oh, I don't know if I could do this.
I hope that's our next sponsor. Whatever
it's like when 4K became a thing and people watch shows and we're like, oh, I don't want to look at those actors.
Yeah, I'm still using my desktop camera, but I do need to plug my 4K camera in. I just got to figure out how to angle it, but nobody wants to hear about that.
That's the problem with mine. I got to figure out how to angle it. Yes, nobody cares about that. Everybody cares about the playoffs.
We could have a tech show. We could, like I set this one up.
Yeah, we got our Yeti. I don't want to take mine off. I took 20 minutes trying to set it up properly.
No, don't.
But yes. Thank you all for tuning in. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, you can find us on Instagram, sponsored by Coca-Cola, apparently, Facebook or Twitter at First Round Fantasy. You can also find us here on YouTube at First Round Fantasy. You can also find us anywhere you listen to your podcast, most notably Apple and Spotify. Man, it's playoffs, Jacob. All right, let's be honest with ourselves because I don't want to spend too much time on us. I want to get to the good stuff. How many leagues are you willing to say that you made playoffs in? Let's just say that. Don't tell people how many leagues you're playing in. Just tell us how many leagues you made the playoffs in.
If I said how many leagues I made the playoffs in, you know how many leagues. You know a lot of leagues that I didn't make the playoffs in, so that would hint towards how many leagues I play in overall. But I think what I'm gonna do is give it a percentage. I made it in 53% of my leagues, which I think,
53%, huh? Not
for
bad,
me, if I make it in 50% or more, I'm happy with that. Okay. So I made it in 50% of leagues. And look, like I said before many times, 6 of the leagues that I play in are with family and friends, and those are the ones I care about the most. I made it in 3 of those. So I'm good with it. Of course, it was hurtful not making it in 2 leagues in particular where I came very close and it relied on Ramondre Stevenson. But I can't blame a player for getting hurt. There's nothing I can do about that. So it is what it is. I'm good with my 50% or more.
Yeah, man. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't have percentages like you do, but I don't think as near many leagues as you do. So I can think of it right now. I made it in 71% of leagues.
Good for you, man.
But I barely made it in. You know, like there are those leagues that you make it in, and you're almost kind of like, I wish I didn't make it because the matchup you have in front of you just looks like daunting.
Well, only if those leagues are like
it's typically like the dynasty and keeper league.
Exactly, because otherwise, then of course I want to get in because there's no value to not getting in. But like if I know I'm a 1 and out, I'd rather just not make the playoffs and get a top 4 pick or something like that.
Oh, of course, man. Of course. With that being said, it's all about playoffs today. So many people are relying on us. Can you believe it, Jacob? 520-something people are relying on us for good information. And we're here to tell you, maybe we got it. I don't know. Take it with a grain of salt. Take it with what you think. We're just here to give you our honest opinions. We're no experts. We're just having fun talking football, and we're happy to have you along for the ride. We're going to jump right on into it today, Jacob. I haven't looked at the notes in a while, so you better not have given me –
What?
Okay, first time all season, you did not give me anybody. Awesome. Excellent. Let's jump in to our dark horses. Jacob Bartley, is that okay?
Yeah, why not?
Well, I'm again still getting my bearings. I don't have my cup of water like usual. I'm dying up here of thirst. I would have drank my water like 9 times already. I can't even talk anymore. So, Jacob Bartley, who is your week 15 dark horse of the week when it matters most, the first round of the playoff?
So this all comes full circle, doesn't it? My week 15 fantasy playoff round 1 dark horse for the 2022 season is none other than my boy Gabe Davis of the Buffalo Bills.
I thought you were going to say Gabriel Miramontes.
Yeah,
Gabriel
Miramontes. Yeah,
I'll get out there, man, for you.
Look, you might be saying, why would you put your name out there on the line for Gabe Davis? Why would you assume Gabe Davis is going to do well this week when he hasn't really done much at all since like week 10? I mean, he had a solid game in week 11, but he's been under 10 fantasy points since then. And there's always the potential that he's going to go off. He plays with Josh Allen. He's a talented player, but he's the epitome of boomer bust. And I think he's the most boomer bust player, like even more so than Mike Williams. I even think Mike Williams.
I was going to say Mike Williams probably takes a crack at it, but yeah,
is more like when Mike Williams is fully healthy. I think he's more consistent than Gabe Davis. We'll have to go look at that to make sure. But for me, Gabe Davis is the ultimate boomer bust. With a player like that, now fantasy football comes down to averages and regressing to the mean, or positive regression, negative regression. You hear that all the time in fantasy football. So if we assume, okay, Gabe Davis, he's a boomer bust player, and at the end of the season his fantasy points are going to reflect that, then he has to have a blow up game at some point in these last 3 weeks, right? Like if you're looking at the law of averages, because he hasn't done it since
science
week 10.
Into this.
So for me, I'm thinking like, look, the past 2 weeks he played the Jets, tough defense, and the Patriots, always a tough defense. Yeah, he played Detroit in week 12, had 7.8 fantasy points, whatever. He's playing Miami this week. I believe that Josh Allen is going to want to lay the smackdown on Miami for multiple reasons, not regions. They're division rivals. He wants to prove that this division is his or theirs, the Bills. And I think the biggest threat to them right now is the Miami Dolphins. Mike McDaniel might win Coach of the Year. And I have a feeling this is going to be a monster shootout. And I think Gabe Davis is going to have a huge blow-up game this week. Not necessarily, like, I'm not guaranteeing 35 points or anything like that, but I think he's going to give – I'm not going to say my line is 20 fantasy points, but I will not be surprised if he gives us a solid 20 fantasy points. But I'm going to go ahead and say he's going to get us 15 or more fantasy points this week in the first round of the fantasy playoffs in 2022. And I'm also putting my money where my mouth is. I have a dynasty league that I commission, and it's, one of my most important leagues. And I'm starting him over a lot of other guys that I could start. So Gabe Davis, that's my dark horse.
Now, Jacob, 15. I know you said a lot of guys. Give us some examples, man. Who are you starting Gabe Davis over?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's
okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
So here's the thing. George Pickens, if Kenny Pickett didn't get hurt and he was still playing, and we don't know yet, Kenny Pickett might still play. But if Mitch Trubisky is the quarterback, I'm starting Gabe Davis over George Pickens. And I think George Pickens has been more consistent this year than Gabe Davis. He definitely has. So even if they say Kenny Pickett's healthy, I think I'm still rolling with Gabe Davis. That's how strong I feel about this dark horse.
All right, man. I mean, hey, it's a solid pick. I understand where you're coming from. He's had a couple of off games, I would argue and agree with you at the same time that Mike Williams, when healthy, is obviously more consistent. We saw that in his return last week. A really nice performance. Davis has kind of been floating around lately. He's honestly been a drop candidate for me at some points this year because when you needed him to boom, he didn't boom, and he's busted more than he's boomed. But when you need him the most, and especially if you're, would you say, Jacob, can I ask you this question? The matchup that you're starting him in, do you think you need him to boom? Or are you looking for that guy? Or would you rather have started a guy with a safe floor? Like, do you think he can get you that 2 for 78, that 1 for 52? Or is there someone else out there that you're okay getting like 10 fantasy points with? Like, what's your matchup look like that makes you determine Gabe Davis is my guy this week? Is that kind of the factor? Do you want to just blow your opponent out of the water?
Or do you really I mean, my lineup has a high ceiling. It's projected. Like, I don't literally projections mean nothing. Like, sure. I don't want to say they mean nothing. Somebody works hard at getting those out, but it never turns out what the projections say, like your whole lineup. It never does. And my projections are 170 right now. And that's pretty high for that league because it's a super flex, but it's also 4 passing touchdowns, 4-point passing touchdowns. So like that's pretty high for that league. And I mean, Gabe Davis is my highest projected player out of my bench players. But I just think I'm putting out the lineup that can get me the most points. Let's say, I have a CMC this week. Let's say he's limited because he's injured. He's on the injury report right now. Let's say he's limited, so he's not going to give me 30 points this week. Maybe he gets me 12. I'm looking for Gabe Davis to make that up for me.
I like it. It's a good point. It's good reasoning. And for those reasons alone and many, many more, Gabriel Davis, wide receiver for the Buffalo Bills in Week 15, first round of the playoffs. That's Jacob Bartley's dark horse of the week. I got to be honest with you, Jacob. It's a good pick. I don't mind it.
On the other side, trying to stick true to the I want to choose someone that people might be benching, this week.
Sure. Jacob, you just said it. Guys that people might be benching, which is a perfect segue to my player because you might be benching him this week. And you brought it up a minute ago. So many teams, I shouldn't say so many teams, every single team is playing in the playoffs. So when you think about that in terms of fantasy, yes, all of your players should be on the field. But what we have to account for are injuries, which is why I'm looking at the running back position this week. And I've come up with one very particular player, and that is Cam Akers, running back for the Los Angeles Rams. Look at here. It's not sexy. It's not exciting, but I think it gets the job done. I mentioned it at the top that every single NFL team is playing this week. However, we are missing some key contributors in the fantasy landscape. Maybe you have a guy like Ramondre Stevenson, who's questionable at this point, and you don't want to deal with the headache of knowing if Harris or, who are the other 2 guys that they just got? The other 2 rookies. One had a great game. I don't mean to
it's Pierre Strong Jr.
Thank you. Yeah, he busted off that 70-yard game. Good for him. But that could be confusion, right? You don't want to deal with that Miami backfield that has now kind of dissipated itself 2 weeks in a row. You may not want to deal with the Buffalo Bills backfield that has also struggled 2 weeks in a row. Not to mention they have another tough matchup this week. You might not want to deal with Kenneth Walker and what's happening with his injury woes. Okay? There are plenty of situations out there that now make the line just that thinner. I'm the perfect example of that. I'm starting Cam Akers in 2 leagues this week, and that's kind of one of my first reasons why I'm making that decision. Number 2, I talked about it last week. Matchups are crucial at this point of the year. You ask me the first 8 weeks, I could care less. You ask me down the stretch, we have the data. We have the information. The Packers are giving up 120 rush yards a game. They are tied for 5th in fifth in most touchdowns allowed at 15. And again, to be honest, no one really expected Baker Mayfield to come out last week and get that win against the Las Vegas Raiders. It's left a couple of Raiders fans a little salty, and I understand that. It's sad, but we'll move on. But anyways, the Rams are playing with the pep in their step. Okay, and with that being said, they've handed off the ball to Cam Akers. Even though he fumbled last week, he still got work after that. He was responsible for essentially that game-winning touchdown plunge into the end zone in the third quarter. Again, after his fumble. He's out-touched Kyron Williams 2 weeks in a row. Remember, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about how there might be the possibility that they're going to give this rookie some work. They're going to give him a look. They're going to see what he can do. No bueno. More so, they probably have no ties to Cam Akers in 2023. So they're just throwing all the work at him, putting the use on his tires. That's kind of what it is. They're planning to run this man into the ground. Now, I get it. 17 carries 2 weeks ago, 14 carries last week. Not really running your guy into the ground. But it all comes with game script and everything. I think Baker's going to be a little more comfortable. I think that Cleveland Browns defense is susceptible. I think Cam Akers is a guy. I know Cam Akers is a guy that you can play this week. And just to kind of give you some perspective of the situations that I'm in, I am starting Cam Akers in a league where I no longer have Deebo Samuel, no longer have T. Higgins, no longer have Dameon Pierce. I'm starting him over guys like Samaje Perine, Jerick McKinnon, who had the big week last week. That's one. In another league, which, Jacob, your family league is surprisingly very, very deep. I just never really noticed it. Like, the rosters are really big. I hear them talk about it in the chat sometimes. I never really pay attention to it.
Yeah, I mean, we're shortening those benches next year for sure.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm starting Cam Akers in that league as well. I'm starting him over guys like Gus Edwards, James Cook, Raheem Mostert, Devin Devaney, Nikini Westbrook Akine, Latavius Murray, Devin Singletary, Cordell Patterson. So, look, are those the sexiest names? No, but they were all guys that we had strong opinions about at the beginning of this year, who now we're looking at, and they're in very difficult situations. Cordell Patterson included in that situation because I didn't mention him earlier. I just think with the way that the fantasy landscape has kind of delegated itself, Cam Akers finds himself in Week 15 in a playoff matchup against a Cleveland Browns defense that is totally susceptible. And I think he can have a great game. And he falls in the end zone. And when it comes to running backs, that's what we hope for. I think he's got a perfect chance to do that against the Cleveland Browns. And they are the Monday night game, if I'm not mistaken. So it is a tough call to make. But he's healthy. He's off in the Drew report. I think he's all systems go. He's a guy that should be in your lineup, in your flex spot. All those guys I mentioned earlier, you're playing him over all of those guys. Cam Akers. My dark horse of the week for Week 15. Jacob?
Yeah, man. I don't mind it, to be honest. Because especially I'm done with Kyron Williams. Like, I thought he was a smart pickup earlier this year, stashing him and holding him in a few leagues. Like, you heard all this hype that Sean McVay loves him, and from reputable sources that the Rams love this guy. He's gonna be the man. Nope, did not happen. Had a few okay games. Like, I dropped him in a dynasty league today, and I have no worries about it at all. Like, go ahead and pick him up. Good luck. But not you, Gabe, just anybody. But so that being said, who else do they have? They cut Darrell Henderson. I can't name another running back on their team. So Cam Akers is the guy. And the Rams, they don't have their first round pick. So they don't want to lose out the rest of these games. They want to win every game the rest of the season for pride's sake, to show. And you think Sean McVay wants to just go out this season like on a losing streak? No, he wants to win. So
I mean, it's also kind of one of the reasons why they probably went out and got Baker Mayfield. I mean, it's not
absolutely
like he's an upgrade or anything.
If they had
kind of an upgrade.
If they had their first round pick, they would not. I don't even think they would have brought in Mayfield. They would have tanked. Absolutely. But you think they want the Lions to have like a better pick because they lose? No way. So Cam Akers is going to have to help them. Who else? Like Ben Skoranek is their top wide receiver. Like, who else is on their offense? Come on now. Cam Akers got to do something this week, so I like it.
I did pick up Tutu Atwell in Dynasty. I don't know. Something about the name. Maybe he gets something going and carries it over into next year. But there you go. For all those reasons and more, Cam Akers, running back for the Los Angeles Rams, is my dark horse for Week 15 of the fantasy football season. Man, that was tough, man. That was tough. Gabe Davis is a good pick. I don't know about Cam Akers.
No,
I giving the pick am like a little nervous, but I just think, given my scenarios, I got to start the guy. So I'm trying to build a narrative here. Everyone knows that.
Well, also that's why I chose Gabe Davis, because like it's personal to me, like I'm doing it too. So I'm right there with you guys. If you listen to me, if you take my advice and you fail, know that I took my own advice and I failed too, or vice versa. we all enjoy a Gabe Davis 28-point game. So we'll see.
Or we all enjoy Cam Akers benching in the first quarter and he lost a fumble and he's got negative
and
2 points.
Kyren Williams just goes off the week that I drop him. I could see that.
It could happen, man. Anything could happen in this beautiful game that drives us crazy, fantasy football. Star Drew is just going off in the chat. By now, if you listen to us on Spotify or Apple, you know that Star Drew is basically just a third member of the podcast. He's our resident game caller of the week. He's got Rams versus Green Bay this week. He thinks that's going to be a good game. He thinks that the Lions versus the Jets and Giants versus Washington would be some premier games with the Dolphins versus Bills. Yeah, I like the Lions and Jets. I don't like the Giants at Washington. I think Washington's going to just demolish them. I like the Dolphins and Bills, but Tua's been a little shaky lately, Jacob, so I don't know what to do about him. I mean, yeah, I'm head coach. I don't know what I'm going to do about him. Raiders versus Patriots, man, I just can't talk about my Raiders right now. It just hurts my heart. Perfect opportunity, let it slip by the wayside. And then he's got the 49ers versus Seahawks. Very good game, but also Seahawks losers of 2 in a row. It just seems a little weird to me. I think the Niners come in and get it done. And it's kind of sad, but obviously well-deserved. Brock Purdy looks great. Hopefully he can make it 2 games in a row. We got an interesting start-sit question earlier this week. It was Mike White or Brock Purdy. We went with Mike White. And Jacob, I don't think I ever ended up telling you this, but I went with him, and I know you had said you went with him too, but just because we have the bigger sample size. I mean, he's already started 3 games this year. He started 3 or so games last year, and we've seen that he can put up big numbers consistently. Meanwhile, Brock Purdy, he had 1 great game. He's obviously got the weapons, but I don't know, maybe with stiffer competition, more crucial competition, we can kind of really see what he's tested about. And if he does great next week, then we have a really good knowledge of what he can do. At least that's what I think. Yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Jacob, when Jacob doesn't listen to me, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Definitely.
No, I mean, I don't want to waste time. But like,
I know.
There's nothing more I can add on.
We got a late start today. Let's get to our rankings this week. Now, you got to bear with me as I try to get through this, Jacob, because, again, a new computer. I realize when I keep going off screen, by the way, to my different tabs, and I come back, my face is like halfway over here. I'm just like not even on screen. So I have to get used to the new angle and everything. But I'm going to go ahead and share these screens here so we can show you our rankings for week 15 playoffs on the line. I don't need to show that again. Share screen. Let's see here.
Gabe's rankings. By the way.
Yes, my rankings.
No, but actually, Gabe, you're the one doing them, so these are the first round fantasy rankings.
I'll take it, man. And you know what? Yeah. They haven't been too bad. So you need to give myself some credit. Or I guess
you deserve all the credit. I'm not even doing rankings, so kudos to you.
All right, man. Put them up. I don't have control this week because I got a new PC, remember? And I think you got to be the one to scroll, too, because I don't. Oh, great. This is going to suck. Oh, no. I'm just going to talk.
No, you can scroll.
And here we go. Not a lot of change at the top this week. Obviously, there's some big players, some big movers. Tony Pollard, most notably at the running back position, has gone up a few spots. But if you remember last week, he was my number 6 running back. So only 3 spots. Really, if it's any more significant than that, I usually take note of it. But right around here at the top, also Miles Sanders, he went up a couple of notches. But again, not significant enough to kind of talk about today. Josh Jacobs, Alvin Kamara, and Isaiah Pacheco round out your top 10. Isaiah Pacheco snuck into the top 10. He was 12 last week. Not too concerned about Jerick McKinnon and his usage. Again, some of those plays were just incredible, miraculous Patrick Mahomes plays that I don't think you can replicate time and time again. So that 57-yard McKinnon touchdown run probably isn't going to happen again. At least, I don't know. But Isaiah Pacheco has a great matchup against the Houston Texans this week. J.K. Dobbins. Should have highlighted that, and I'm going to do it right now. Welcome back, my friend. 15 for 115 on the ground last weekend, a touchdown. Had an outstanding performance.
Ooh, number 11?
Yeah, man, you got to put him back in there. He doesn't even play Cleveland. I have that all wrong, but I'd love to see the matchup that I have here.
I'm curious. That could have been a dark horse for you this week, too.
It could have been, but obviously he played really great last week.
Yeah,
it
but
look like he had the burst like he had before. There's a couple of big runs and he got caught.
He's still working his way back. Like, I don't think he's extremely trustworthy yet.
Fair, but I think I mostly did it, one, because of the workload. I honestly think Gus Edwards could have been a dark horse as well. I was teetering with him because even with the return of J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards still had 14 carries and had a fine game himself. He just didn't fall in the end zone. But, yeah, I like him. I'm looking up his matchup here because I know I had it wrong. No, they do play Cleveland. I don't know who I was talking about then. Oh, I said my dark horse was playing Cleveland this whole time. Oh, no, Jacob. What did I do? Akers. Well, we just can't cut that up on the pod today, dude. You didn't catch me. I didn't see it. They play the Green Bay Packers. Jacob, we're not cutting my dark horse this week.
Well, we have a few options here. You could redo your dark horse after the rankings.
Okay, fine. I guess I'll redo it or I'll do it separately. I don't know. Maybe I'll redo it.
True. And you did fumble the Patriots running backs' names, but I was going to edit that out anyway.
Oh, it's just my girl took me out to dinner. I'm full. My tummy is full.
I know. I learned to don't podcast and be full. I don't know. Dude, there's a better way to say that.
I'm food drunk. That's what it is. We had really bomb.
Don't podcast on a full belly. So
it's been a rough day. But anyways, yeah, J.K. Dobbins gets the Cleveland matchup. Nick Chubb continues to fall for me. He's fallen 2 spots. Aaron Jones, not a lot of movement. Saquon Barkley, he falls 8 spots. The primary reason, 2 actually. 1, the neck issue. Really concerned us last week. Turns out he didn't get a lot of action, didn't get a lot of carries, barely even saw him in the second half. And they also play Washington this week, a really up-and-coming rush defense. Ezekiel Elliott, Najee Harris, Joe Mixon falls 9 spots for me this week. I just think Burrow is on a tear. Now, I know what you're going to say. Well, T. Higgins might not play, and Tyler Boyd is not going to play. And Hayden Hurst may not play. Who knows? But I just think when Joe Burrow gets into these momentum spins where he's throwing the ball constantly, it's not Joe Mixon getting that volume. It's Samaje Perine. For those reasons, he's falling down to number 16. Travis Etienne, Ramondre Stevenson, if he plays, this is kind of a question mark here. Got to make sure that happens. We'll check on it. James Conner had a good week. Can he make it 3 weeks in a row because he's had 2 good weeks going up against the Denver defense? Pretty tough there. David Montgomery, Xavier Knight finally gets the credit he deserves. He jumps into the top 20 at 21, making him a borderline running back 2 for me against Detroit this week. Difficult matchup as Detroit's steadily gotten better this year. They're more susceptible through the air, but Xavier Knight with his 100-yard games just keeps it coming. Cam Akers, my dark horse this week, 23. And then it gets a little weird here. I kind of took the numbers out. So technically it's Cam Akers 22, Swift 24. I was doing this on the go. Again, too much Mexican food for me. Jamal Williams, Rashad White, and pretty much we get into that same type of stuff we've been getting into. These dirty backfields we don't really want anything to do with. James Cook, Devin Singletary round out the top 30 for me. Jerick McKinnon, Cordell Patterson, A.J. Dillon. That's going from bottom to top, actually. Rashad White, Leonard Fournette, 23 and 24, respectively. Again, just those backfields where you're kind of like, yeah, there's Swift and Williams are there too at 21 and 22. Those duos, those double.
It's so tough though because like once you bench those guys, they go off. One of them goes off. It's like because Swift 2 weeks ago, Swift had a great game, and it's like now everybody's starting him again. People were calling him a must start after that game, and then look, it's terrible.
Yeah, man, they're headaches.
Doing it.
They're headaches. They're headaches. That's what they are. And they're ranked accordingly, at least to my perspective. Of course, my rankings aren't the only rankings. Professionals do rankings. I would argue that professional fantasy football experts aren't even professional fantasy football experts because my motto stays the same. Fantasy football is 50% strategy, 50% luck. That's what I'll say, and I'll stick to it.
There's a lot of luck involved. I'll say
There's
that.
a lot of luck involved. But those were my running back rankings this week. Again, just to summarize 1 through 30. Not a lot of change at the top. A few fallers that took noticeable hits. And then welcome back, J.K. Dobbins. I'm actually more excited to talk about my wide receiver rankings this week. And I did not fix it properly. So it looks a little weird because these are not – these were last week's. Actually,
hold on.
Jacob,
do you want to work on that while I talk about your running back rankings?
Yeah, sure.
Well, I guess I can't look at them though, which is interesting.
No, it's fine. We're figuring this out on the go. I'll go back to the running back rankings. Talk about it.
Yeah. Well, you could send me the doc and I can look at it separately. But anyways,
You have the doc.
I understand why. Okay, so one thing that stands out to me really quick.
Let's talk about running backs. Yeah.
Is Ramondre Stevenson. Now, let me ask you this. If he was fully healthy, would he be ranked that low?
If he was fully healthy, he would be ranked much, much higher. I had to factor in that he came back into the game. They took him out as a precaution. He had a DNP today. I don't know his status. Obviously, he's going up against the Las Vegas Raiders. If he's playing, he skyrockets probably easily into the top 12 discussion somewhere.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say because – well, also, he's from Las Vegas, so he's pushing heavily to play at that game because you know how it is. All his buddies, his family, they're all going to come out to the game, and they probably already have tickets, and it would be a bummer if he doesn't get to play. And look, we can never be mad at players for getting injured. They can't control that. Can we be mad at the universe for allowing him to get hurt and destroying so many playoff hopes? Sorry, I wasn't going to get into this, but I just had to throw something in there.
R.I.P. to the It's Personal podcast, by the way. But yeah, it's personal for Jacob.
We're going to do something with that. But yeah, man, and then I'm really shocked at your J.K. Dobbins ranking. But forgive me if I'm wrong, but Cleveland's pretty susceptible to the run, right?
They most definitely are second in the league. And again, Deshaun Watson, you can look at the other side of the ball too. Deshaun Watson hasn't done anything to prove that he's playing better. I think the Baltimore Ravens are a step above their opponents last week. I think they're still Russ on Deshaun Watson. And we've just seen that when Deshaun Watson struggles, that team struggles. And I just think that the Baltimore Ravens are going to kind of control the game in the run game. Both Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins should be heavily involved.
Yeah, no, I agree. And yeah, like you said, if Lamar's not playing, because basically he's the starting running back when he plays. So that's interesting. It's really tough because like the way you rank these, it really hinges on injuries. If you really think about it, it changes how you're ranking these players. Like if everyone's fully healthy, your rankings would look totally different. Like,
oh yeah, of course.
Well, I don't even mean the players who are out, like, Javonte Williams and Breece Hall. I'm talking about if like none of these guys were questionable, they'd be probably a lot higher.
Oh, Barkley would be higher.
Yeah.
But Barkley still has the matchup, and we saw that even when he was healthy about 3 or 4 weeks ago. He had a stretch of games there where he just wasn't producing what he was in the beginning of the season. He fell in the end zone 2 weeks ago, and then last week was the neck injury game. But yeah, he would have been probably like back end running back 1. I don't think Washington is as explosive as some of the other teams they played, like Philadelphia, for instance. They just got blown up by 30 points. Jalen Hurts is chilling in the fourth quarter on the bench because he's just done for the day. That's not going to be the kind of things that Washington can do to them. It's going to be more of a gridiron game, but their defense, their front seven is just so much better than Philadelphia's in terms of stopping the run. So that was another.
So when you determine your rankings, you're obviously thinking in terms of PPR, right?
Yeah.
Full PPR? Okay. Yeah. No, I agree. So I'm thinking, let me see. Okay. Because I really like your aggression on Isaiah Pacheco. Not that PPR has anything to do with it. I was just comparing your ranking with with a reputable website that does rankings, and they have him at number 14 in full PPR. So like I didn't realize, the fantasy community had him that high, but that brings joy to my heart because I have to start him this week. So you're telling me that it's going to work out. Thank you, Gabe.
No worries at all. I think with Pacheco specifically, he's just gotten the workload. I mean, 17, 14, 17 carries over the last couple of weeks. He's fallen in the end zone a few times in between there. Everybody wants to get hyped up about Jerick McKinnon. But again, I mentioned it in the rankings clip that, Jerick McKinnon isn't going to just catch an underhand pass from Patrick Mahomes that floated 5 yards to him and he sprints for 75 or 57 yards. Like, it's irreputable. Like, you can't do that again. But what you can do is continue to get the workload. And Isaiah Pacheco's getting that. And also his matchup this week is tremendous. The number one defense against the run, or the number one team giving up the most points to the fantasy running back position. So, yeah, I think he cracks the top 10 this week.
Awesome, man. Love to hear that. So regarding that, I mean, he's not playing, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire, like, what a bust, honestly. Asking for a friend, would you therapeutically drop him in a dynasty league just to like do it, just to get that weight off your chest?
I'm skeptical in dynasty leagues. It depends how deep it is, one. And two, you either invested so much into him as a rookie in draft pick.
He was the 101 that year.
See, so you either invested him so much, right? So that's one. Two, you probably involved him in a trade where if it was going into this season, honestly, you probably included him in a trade where he wasn't the centerpiece, right? Because we saw this last year where he wasn't getting this workload, and that was before Pacheco. That was before a lot of things, right? He really wasn't doing anything special towards the end of last year either. So you're kind of just stuck with him. I don't know if you would drop him, though, because it is dynasty. He's 22. He could get released next season, whatever, not seeing it. And then he's going to be a 23-year-old free agent, 24-year-old free agent. And he might sign somewhere and be reputable. So it's really tough. I can tell you right now, Jacob, in our leagues, I don't think I'm here or notice. But, yeah, man, he's a drop can. Just because don't get me wrong, we play in really competitive leagues. But when you're out of the playoffs, you're out of the playoffs. You're just watching football, man. So if you're dropping him at this point in the season, he might find he might find himself onto a roster. But I think the teams that would benefit the most from having him are teams that are uninterested in this.
Yeah, and on it, like I don't even need to drop him. Like I just want to, but I'm not gonna.
Yeah. Well, that was a good talk. Thank you, Jacob. I'm glad that we could have a discussion there. I appreciate it, man. Keep the questions coming. From my own co-host here, not even a co-host. Well, I guess we're both.
Yeah, right? I mean, I'm your panel member. I don't know.
No. We're co-hosts.
You're the main host.
No. We're equal. I don't like main. So I want to.
We're equal contributors to the channel. Yes.
Yes, we are hosts. Anyways, this clip is getting ridiculously long. Let's look at wide receivers. I didn't get a chance to change it. But you kind of get to see my strategy here. These were last week's rankings. So on the left, you have last week's rankings. On the right, you have this week's rankings. So it's kind of my process here. Let's take a look at it. As you can see, not a lot of change at the top. Not a lot of guys have gone up or gone down. A.J. Brown stayed at 6. Diggs stayed at 5. Chase moved up a couple of spots, but not too much there. So I feel like I did pretty good, and those guys performed obviously pretty well. We get down to the bottom half here. Garrett Wilson at 8 for me this week. He jumps up 3 spots. Last week I had him at 11, which is also why I kind of point that I do the little green and reds, because if they're red, they fell and I named the spot. So typically you kind of already knew. So I guess I could get rid of this. Dun, dun, dun. Because I already went through and showed you what these guys are capable of. But then I don't like looking at it like this. You guys are just watching me fool at it on the podcast. This is the best episode ever.
You're teaching people how to use Google Sheets,
Excel,
all right?
Yeah. Today's sponsor, Excel. Get yourself Excel.
So it does look like one of those sponsor videos, like when you're showing someone how to use something.
She can do your taxes. DK Metcalf doesn't change. Amon-Ra St. Brown. is there for me. Keenan Allen jumps with 5 spots. Jalen Waddle didn't really move. If anybody out of this list, he could be one of the guys that's honestly a big follower for me this week. One, because they play San Francisco, even though I know that their pass game isn't as strong as their run game is. But 2, because Tua hasn't played like himself the last 2 weeks, and Jalen Waddle has been the biggest benefactor. I guess benefactor is not the right thing because that would mean positive, but he's just been the one that's been most negatively impacted by Tua's struggles. So he could be obviously a bigger follower for me. Amari Cooper, Mike Williams, welcome back to the rankings. Chris Godwin also takes a fall. We've just kind of figured out that PPR is great, but we really want to see Chris Godwin get those touchdowns, and he's just not getting them. 10 to 14 points is good, but I think the guys in front of him this week can put up monster games, with the exception of Hopkins ranked right before him, but I think he has a more consistent floor, whoever is his quarterback. Tyler Lockett, Devontae Smith, Christian Kirk, Juju rounds out the top 20. Then we move into some more interesting names here. Brandon Elliott. Look, Brock Purdy's got to throw to a wide receiver. Jacob, what did I say last week? And you agreed with me, and we kind of know it. Rookies hyper target their wide receivers, usually one. And Brock Purdy was hyper targeting Deebo Samuel. RIP to him. Hopefully he's back soon and healthy. But insert new wide receiver. And that is Brandon Ayuk. I just think he has potential this week to kind of see those targets and be force fed. Terry McLaurin against New York. Chris Olave, Christian Watson. Man, Christian Watson. Welcome back. I missed him off the bye. He has another great matchup this week against the Los Angeles Rams. I can't wait to see what he does. Keep it going, Christian Watson. You're my knight in shining armor for 2024. Spoilers. Mike Evans has dropped 2 spots for me. Michael Pittman, Zay Jones. Drake London, welcome to the top 30. I mainly did this because I want to see what Desmond Ridder can do, but there is the off chance that Desmond Ridder comes out and absolutely stinks like poo. But I was being a little frisky with my last few picks. George Pickens. Did you hear the screams?
I did. Do you want to go check on that?
Yep.
Yeah.
For me. What do you think?
I got you. Well, Star Drew, if you have any questions for me, go ahead and shoot those. But yeah. So he has. I'm just going to work backwards from his rankings and talk about these players while Gabe is gone for a second. George Pickens is interesting because it really depends whether Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky is the quarterback. We saw Mitch Trubisky come in. What happened? Deontay Johnson had 12 targets. And I think that's just how it is Trubisky in, it's Deontay Johnson. Pickett in, it's George Pickens. And probably has a lot to do with the rookie camaraderie and the veteran camaraderie. Hello, Gabe. I hope everything's okay.
Everything's okay. Star Drew, you heard it too? He says equal. Yeah, I wonder, because I asked you if you heard it. Yeah, girls drop phones in showers because they just watch videos in showers, I guess. I don't know. But yes, everything is all good.
I've literally never taken my phone in the shower, but that's a conversation for another day.
Oh, Jacob, I'm sure you said some good things. This has just been a great podcast. This is what the people have needed in week 15.
Hey, you know what I was doing? I was going to go backwards. I was just starting at George Pickens, and I was going to go up and talk about every player that I could see because I can't move your rankings. So I was just talking about George Pickens, and then I was going to talk about Drake London, but luckily I only talked about George Pickens.
Yeah, you're great. Man, I'm sorry. It's been a great night. Brandon Ayuk, Mike Williams. I think those guys are the biggest benefactors for me. I have them ranked accordingly. Jalen Waddle honestly could be a big follower. I mentioned that earlier. Juju could have a big game as well. It was nice to see him come back last week. But yeah, those are my rankings for week 14. You can critique them some more, or I think every segment today is just uncuttable at this point. But we appreciate you sticking with us today. We're having a lot of fun.
I think my dark horse clip is pretty fire. No,
yeah, man. I'm
not
glad,
because
dude.
I'm so great, just because there was no mess ups.
Oh my god, man.
I mean, compared to the rest of the show.
Can you take my share screen off screen? I don't even have power to take it off. Oh yes, I do.
Yeah. Hey, but you know what we can do? We can make
Can
this.
you make us the good version too? I don't like
Our next segment should be fire.
Oh yeah, I can't wait, man.
Even though I hate my lineup, but we'll get to that.
Dude, I know. Jacob, I'm just glad you're here, man. Like totally off the record. Like there's nobody I'd rather just like stumble through mud with than you, my dog. So
thank you, man. I appreciate that.
a couple of years ago, though, I will say this. Now we're just killing time, and I know we have one more segment, but we're actually doing good in terms of time because we always should be like an hour. One time, Jacob left me alone in downtown Sacramento. For those of you who don't know, it was like 3 a.m. Jacob just got in a cab and left, and I was stranded in Sac by myself, middle of the night. Definitely purge vibes, and I could have died, but I didn't. And Jacob, you were there with me for a long time.
I knew you would be okay, man. I wanted to, to test your will.
I got good survival instincts. All right, man. Hey,
man, you bring up that story all the time, man.
Well, dude, it's not every day.
But we can't tell the whole story though on camera. So,
now that we've had a second, we've had a full breakaway. Let's bring it back for one last good segment, Jacob.
Okay? We got this.
Let's talk about some DFS. We've been having a ton of fun with it. It's been great. Jacob and I have been playing each other week in and week out. I got the win last week. That was cool. Jacob, hey, don't let it be 3 in a row, man. Let's start with you. Show me your lineup. What do you got this week? What are you packing?
Yeah, so, you are 2-0 against me. But like I said, that would be really unfortunate if, like, you go how many weeks if you go 5-0 against me to end the season? Wow. But like I said, next season we're gonna do this every week, so like we'll have a bigger sample size.
Sure.
So let's go ahead and bring my lineup up over here, and I got it all nice and fancy.
I said that, and I'm gonna lose the next like 4 straight. So
yeah, let's go ahead and zoom in here. Yeah, and Gio, I see your comments, man. We'll get to those in a second, even though this isn't a movie YouTube channel, but worth addressing. Okay, so this week, full disclosure, I mean, it makes us we already seem unprofessional, but to seem even more unprofessional, we got these lineups in like right before the podcast started, and there's actually a logical reason for it. For some reason, in California, you cannot add funds to your FanDuel account on your wireless service. You have to be connected to Wi-Fi. My school does not allow me to connect my personal device to the Wi-Fi. So I had to wait till I got home to connect to the Wi-Fi in order to set my lineup. That being said, no excuses, but I don't love my lineup because it was rushed. But let's get into it. I usually go big dog at quarterback, and I do think Justin Herbert, look, he hasn't been as great as he was his first 2 seasons, but I think he obviously has a great matchup against Tennessee. And I didn't want to pay up for Patrick Mahomes this week, especially because they're playing Houston. And what if they get up, 28-3? And like, I don't think the Chiefs are motivated to just keep laying it down on the Texans. I think there's a good chance Patrick Mahomes doesn't finish that game because they're just up by too much. And like, why waste his energy on the Texans? So that's usually I would have went Patty Mahomes, honestly, but he was $800 more. And I think game script and game situation might pull him out of the game. But I did go big dog at running back here with Derrick Henry. Same game. I didn't even realize that, but I think Derrick Henry is going to run all over the Los Angeles Chargers. So I wanted to spend
games in the past against them.
Yeah, I wanted to spend up here and get Derrick Henry. Now, I don't love my second running back option, but again, you got to go to the bargain barrel. What is it called? The bargain bin. When you're building these lineups, and I went to the bargain bin a lot this time around. But I'm going with Michael Carter now. Look, he's obviously coming off his injury. Zonovan Knight is obviously taken over. What's the shocking reaction for?
Michael Carter. Yeah, I'm just interested to see the rest of your lineup. So
yeah, I mean, I had to go to the bargain bin, but I do think, look, he's coming off his.
You pulled a Gabe there.
Yeah, he's coming off his injury, and look, he had 6 targets last week. That's not bad. So if I'm going to the bargain bin and you're giving me a running back who had 6 targets, he had 5 carries for 5 yards, but there's a good chance they were just easing him back in. And of course, I would rather start Zonovan Knight, but I couldn't afford it in this situation. So if those 6 targets turn into 70 yards and a touchdown, I'm sitting pretty in this lineup. Not saying that's going to happen, but they are playing Detroit. And that'll come into factor in my next pick, which is Garrett Wilson. And I just think it's fun to root for Garrett Wilson. I'm hoping Mike White plays this game because my whole lineup depends on that.
He says he's planning to go. He said publicly.
And I also, I almost started 3 Jets players, but then I realized I was like, oh no way, I can't do that. But yeah, I'm rolling with Garrett Wilson here. I think he's still like, you can argue that he should be at the top tier pricing, and he's still like a little bit ways down there. So I think this is a steal of a deal for 7,800 for Garrett Wilson. You know what I'm realizing? Like, I think I told you this before, Gabe. A year ago, I thought it was so dumb when people would do like DFS segments on their podcast. I was like, nobody cares. And now I like love doing this, to be honest.
Oh, it's fun, man. I have so much fun.
Yeah, because like it kind of separates you from your season-long teams. Like there's not as much stress. It's just fun. So I love season-long. Don't get me wrong.
Season-long is fun, man.
Yeah, but
every week you have a chance to start new with DFS.
Speaking of going to the bargain bin, MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Now, look, I always say, a lot of people, they'll be like, oh, who should I start? This other random 4th wide receiver on the Texans or MVS? And I'm like, go with the guy who's being thrown by the ball by Patrick Mahomes. Like, there's always a chance MVS can go off. So looking at the wide receivers in this price range, I wasn't mad at going with MVS. Now, this might be my biggest bargain bin. Jameson Williams. Now, look, I'm not saying this is a smart play, but I'm saying for what I can afford at this point in time, and the way I do it is I put all my big dogs in first. Like I put in Herbert, put in Derrick Henry, put in Garrett Wilson, I put in my tight end, and then I build the lineup around that. So I got to pick and choose like, okay, who in this area do I want to start? And I was like, look, Jameson Williams had that awesome touchdown last week, his first catch of his career. Not saying that they're going to just fire him up now, get him 10 targets. I don't think that's the case. But who is, the Jets have a very good secondary. The Lions have a lot of wide receivers. So some of these Lions wide receivers are going to be left open because like a Sauce Gardner type guy or a Sauce Gardner is going to be over. Like, I don't think Jameson Williams is going to be the focal point of the Jets secondary. So I can see him getting open in this game a lot. So if he does if he catches a bomb, I'm good with that. So yeah, that was my other bargain bin. And I told you, I love to go with Travis Kelce every time. If I can get Travis Kelce as my tight end, I do it in DFS. I don't think you can go wrong there. And then to round it out, look, this really hinges on whether or not Mr. Trubisky plays. But Deontay Johnson had 12 targets last week. And I think if Mitch Trubisky starts, he can be in for another big game. They're playing Carolina, very friendly to wide receivers. Then I got the Denver Broncos, who have been putting up a lot of fantasy points and they're playing Arizona without Kyler Murray.
That's a good pick.
That's going to be my lineup. Yeah.
The best pick is Denver. They saved you money.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't accounted for Colt McCoy playing yet. It's a good pick. That's a good pick.
Yeah.
Overall,
overall,
I like your lineup. Not a lot to hate. I think, much like myself, you've taken some real bargain barrel shots with MVS, Michael Carter, Jameson Williams, but you spent up on the big dogs. So I like to think you've taken a page out of the old book.
So, yeah, I got it. Basically, so we have 3 weeks left. Well, I guess we could play in week 17 too, but the fantasy season would be over.
And we can play in the playoffs. We can do one gamers, whatever.
Yeah, so basically, I got to catch up to you. Oh, wait, if I can win 2, then we have a showdown for who wins overall. But I got to win 2 first, so we'll see.
Let's do that, man. I look forward to it. Let's take a look here at my lineup going up against Jacob. Similar approach, Jacob. My approach does not change. I will say this is by far the most spread out I have been. Usually I delegate my funds into one specific position, whether it's running backs or wide receivers. This week I've really kind of just evened the playing field out with my lineup, and it all starts at QB with Mike White. Again, he's come out. He said he's going to play. I haven't shared my lineup yet, so let's do that. Get it in there, Jacob. I don't have control. I feel so vulnerable.
No comment.
I feel so vulnerable. Anyways, Mike White is my guy this week. He said he's going to play. He's going to play. He goes up against the Detroit Lions, the team giving it up the most through the air.
For him to have I knew that you were going to go Mike White. So, because I considered it, and I was like, that's definitely going to be Gabe's choice, so I'm not doing it.
I love my budget QBs, man. And he's not technically a budget at $7,000, but he was the cheapest with the best matchup. And he's been on a tear. Last week was tough. He exited the game 2 times. He was unhealthy, and that game did get a little out of hand eventually. But I think he's going to have a fine bounce-back game if he's healthy. After that, I'm going with 2 guys that are racking up touchdowns week in and week out, and that is Jamal Williams and Miles Sanders. Jamal Williams goes up against the New York Jets. I think that game is going to be gritty. I think it's going to be intense. I want to think the Lions pull it out, but I also think Mike Williams is going to set the world on fire. I also think Jamal Williams is going to get his around the goal line. So hopefully he falls in the end zone a time or 2. Miles Sanders is going to eat it up against the Chicago Bears, just like he did last week. Let's look at my wide receivers. Whoa, who's this guy? It's Chris Moore, wide receiver for the Houston Texans. Last week, without Brandon Cooks, without Nico Collins, he put up a game. This week, he has another opportunity to put up a game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, a lot of people will say, hey, he hasn't been able to do it back-to-back weeks. Well, this is the first time he has the potential to do it back-to-back weeks, because this is also the first time he'll be going back-to-back weeks without playing with Brandon Cooks or Nico Collins, which is why I just love him so much. Garrett Wilson. So we have some commonalities here, Jacob. Garrett Wilson, don't need to explain him that much. I'll let Jacob do the talking there. Mike Williams, welcome back. Last week he did great. This week I think he continues his stretch against the Tennessee Titans, another team that are league leaders in giving up bombs upwards of 25 yards or more. Evan Ingram is my tight end this week. I wasn't really confident with that pick. However, I did end up going with it. He's got a really, really tough matchup against Dallas, but Trevor Lawrence is just playing so good. Jacksonville's at home. Honestly, this game is probably on the radar for my upset of the week, to be honest with you. I love Jacksonville here. I think Dallas has been getting a lot of it done on the ground. It's time for Dak to show what he can do with his arm. I think this game's close, and Jacksonville has a chance to pull it on top. And I think Evan Ingram gets in on the 11. The 11. Then I got Chris Olave, Jacob's darling of the fantasy football year. This is honestly the first time I've really – just because I don't have, ownership of Olave anywhere. So I never get to share the excitement of this big –
Yeah, I actually only have him in a redraft league, and I'm so sad because, then he's gone forever.
He's gone, right? Well, you get to enjoy him this week. He's going to have a big game against Atlanta. Like him there. And then for my defense, New Orleans Saints also going up against Atlanta. Atlanta's starting Desmond Ridder this week. It could go one of two ways. Really great or really bad. And let's be honest. It's likely to happen on the really bad side as he kind of learns the ropes of the NFL. So with that being said, that is my DFS lineup for week 15.
Awesome. Can you scroll through it slowly again? Yeah. Nice.
Yeah,
you have several players that I had in my lineup and I took out. One of them being Chris Moore. Good, great price.
Great price.
Mike Williams I had in at one point. I wanted to stack him with Herbert. Pretty good price for Mike Williams. He's been higher before. And I also had Chris Olave in at one point, but I had to adjust some things in order to fit Travis Kelce into my lineup. But I'm thinking look, you got Evan Ingram in there. He's not going to go off for 40 points again.
No.
But you would think, oh, this guy just had a stud performance. Let's get him more involved. I would hope that's what the coach would do. So, dude, solid lineup, man.
So let me ask you this, Jacob.
I like yours more than mine.
I was going to say, can my lineup beat your lineup this week?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's
so nice.
Well, I do think so. I don't want it to, of course not. But I'm paying for Justin Herbert way more when Mike White could easily have just as good a game. And yeah, so I think I got you in some areas, but it's going to be a good one. I got to take one. I can't lose 3 in a row. Let's go. It's
going to be a good one. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments. Who wins it this week? Our DFS plays of the week. Brought to you by us. First Round Fantasy. Man, dude. Good time. Good time, Jacob. We did good tonight. We hit some roadblocks. We hit some stumbles. We got through it. And at the end of the night, Coach Coop came in to say, yo. So it's been a good day. Been a good day.
Absolutely. Yeah. Gio says Henry Cavill with the crying emoji. If you guys didn't hear, I guess they're not moving forward with him as Superman in DC. So
wait, what?
Pretty upset about that. Yeah.
So not only is he not going to be Superman in DC, but he's also not the Witcher anymore.
So it's dumb because he showed up at the end of Black Adam, spoiler, and supposed to tease his return, and then the guy in charge of DC basically tweeted and said, we're working on a Superman story of a younger Superman, so it won't be played by Henry Cavill. So that's unfortunate. I feel your pain, Gio, so much so that you had to come and put it on a fantasy chat. So trust me, I feel your pain, man. I feel your pain. Gio also says, sit Mike Evans this week.
Yeah, I had a long discussion with him in the chat while you were going over some scenarios yourself. The scenario he painted was Evans, Moore, Chark, or Sutton. And
so Sutton without Russ. Is Sutton going to play this week?
Nah, man. I mean, even if he does, I don't trust him.
Yeah, I wouldn't start him. I don't.
And Chark had a great week last week. Much tougher defense this week against the New York Jets.
I agree,
even though New York Jets have been pretty washy. I don't understand how Mike White is throwing the ball 40 times a game when the New York Jets are supposed to be this really good defense. I think the last 2 weeks they've been giving up points. So Chark maybe again, but I don't think
that who do you think Sauce Gardner would probably guard Chark? Don't you think?
Well, Chark's the outside wide receiver. So
yeah, because Amon-Ra is their best wide receiver, but he plays a very different role.
Yeah.
So I don't think Sauce would guard him. So yeah, I mean if Sauce is locking down Chark, that's going to be tough. Definitely.
Yeah. Now looking good there.
So I know you answered these in the chat, Gabe, but I want to give the audio listeners, visual listeners some stuff here. So some start sits or whatever. So Gio says start one Evans, Chark, Sutton, or Moore. So Mike Evans, DJ Chark, Cortland Sutton, or is it DJ Moore? Or is he talking about Moore from the Texans?
He's talking about DJ Moore. He's got to be talking about DJ Moore.
This is gross. I mean, I would go Mike Evans just because Mike Evans is due for a game. He's due for a game.
Due for a game. Come on, big guy. Wait a second. Are you playing Barnes this week?
Who?
You.
No, I'm not. I didn't make it in that league.
Oh, well, why did Keith say Bartley versus Barnes this week? Oh, are you guys going to record?
Yeah, I'm not sure. No, Keith might be confused. I didn't make the playoffs, so maybe he
Nonetheless,
thinks.
what's going
Oh,
on?
wait! In the consolidation bracket.
Oh, in the toilet bowl.
That's
Nice.
so sad. That's like, I had to realize that. Oh, that is so sad. Keith, you're right. Bartley versus Barnes. Hey, let's make it fun. Let's put a wager on it. Movie ticket or something. We'll talk, but let's make it fun. We'll set that way. Our lineups are worth something this week because we did not make the playoffs and neither of us have our first round pick because other people hoard them. But yeah, Keith, let's make it interesting. Let's bet a movie ticket or something.
Sidebar. I have 6 picks. I'm only going to be able to pick up 5 players. So there is a first round pick there, Jacob. If you're interested.
What do you can drop a player though?
Yeah. Well, okay, I get
the way Sleeper works. You'll be able to drop.
I know. I was just trying to make it feel good.
Make it feel better. No,
you were making it feel down. I was trying to make it feel good.
You're still a hoarder.
Tyler Coop Facebook Gaming says, "Yo, what's up, man? Go check him out. Listen to Coach. Hashtag listen to Coach." Gio met Elijah Moore.
There's too many Moores in the league. We don't need more Moores.
6 targets. He could have a good game. In that scenario, I don't mind Elijah Moore over Mike Evans. I don't. I thought you were talking about DJ Moore. I may not mind Elijah Moore over.
So remember when I said I was going to start a third jet in my DFS lineup? It was Elijah Moore. And I was like, no, I can't start Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson, and Michael Carter. I just can't do it.
I started him last week in our DFS lineup, and he was serviceable. He had like 11 fantasy points. So not too
glad to see him doing something, finally.
Yeah. Well, folks, it's about time for us to getting on. So with that being said,
I want to say hi to David Tulane. Thanks for stopping by again. Hello.
Thank you, David. Appreciate you so much, man. I know he's been around here before. We appreciate you, man. Again, we can't do it without you guys. It's fun just to have a couple of. I mean, honestly, Jacob, you and I would just have fun talking to each other. But it's also nice to have people come in and talk to us as well, so we're not just sounding crazy. With that being said, be sure to like. That's all we ask. Most of you are already subscribed, so like, and say hi in the chat. Start a conversation. We're always down to listen. We're always down to talk. It's always a good time. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at First Round Fantasy, here on YouTube at First Round Fantasy, or anywhere you listen to your podcast, most notably Spotify or Apple Premium at First Round Fantasy. Jacob, it's a good show. I say that as sarcastically as I can, but when people needed us the most, we cracked a little bit. But we did not fail. We bent, but we did not break.
Hey, what do they say? Half the battle is showing up. There we go.
I want to get to this question right here. Gio says Bartley and Barnes going to be sad AF. Now I'm just sad. I don't get it.
Dang, Gio, I don't know what's going to happen. I think what he's referring to is we're going to talk about all this DC shenanigans probably on Bartley and Barnes, talking about Henry Cavill. Yeah, interesting how Henry Cavill found his way into our fantasy chat or fantasy podcast, but worthy of it.
Shout out to Henry Cavill if you see this. He actually has a YouTube channel where he constructs and builds PCs.
With the tank top on, right?
Yeah, he's like a huge game. Well, I don't watch it for that, Jacob. But
it went viral because he was like sleeveless.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I watched some of them as I was like building my confidence to build my own PC, which I finally did. Jacob, I'm tired of giving hot takes, man. And I also don't have any control in this chat anymore. So not only are you responsible for a hot take this week, you're responsible for sending us out. I'm resting. I'm putting my head down. Get us out of here, Jacob. What's your hot take for week 15 of the fantasy football season?
Ooh, okay. My hot take is...
Say it with some excitement or I'm going to take over.
Okay. Well,
I want to do what Jacob does every time we do a hot take. Let's go.
Okay. My hot take is, this relates to my dark horse. Gabe Davis is going to give us over 30 fantasy points, at least 2 touchdowns this week. Let's do it, baby. He's going to win us some playoff games. Let's go.
Peace.